Members, next up, we're going to hear HB 223, presented by Representative Placensia. Representative Placensia, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. Members, hello. HB 223 allows residents to use fixed cameras in their nursing home rooms, and that is the bill.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Placensia. Members, we do have a strike call, right?
Yes, we do.
So we're going to hear that strike call, and then we'll proceed. So, Representative Placensia, you're recognized to present the strike call amendment.
Thank you. So the strike call amendment is a result of working with all the parties, making sure that we're listening to different members of our community, to the nursing homes, to the patients, to the families. It makes technical changes to the bill. But in addition to that, it also adds a few more things, like the camera should be non-rotatable. So if you put a fixed camera in your room, you shouldn't be panning it from one side to the other. We shouldn't be placing this on the internet. So there's a prohibition for that. No placing of this footage on the internet. The consent forms will be made by ACA. So they'll be drafting and providing the consent forms. The internet will be provided for by the resident. The person paying for the camera will also pay for the internet. And that is the major changes in the bill.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Placensia. Members, do we have questions on the amendment? Representative Franklin.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chair, and thanks so much for your hard work on this and the amendment. My question is around the part that prohibits publishing images captured on the device on the internet. So, for example, what are the penalties where someone were to post something on the internet?
You're recognized.
Thank you. As I move this into the next committee, I am requesting to make that a misdemeanor. It'll be a criminal offense to post it on the internet or to use it in a way that it's not intended for.
Follow-up?
And just one more follow-up, and thanks for that answer. My next question is around, you said not intended for, so that would probably include text messages, posting on a tree somewhere in a picture. So I'm assuming that would include more than just the internet, but also other forms of disseminating the information.
You're recognized.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Representative Campbell, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative, what brought about this bill idea for it? Just kind of trying to understand what's currently happening within the nursing homes that really brought this forward.
You're recognized.
Thank you. So I think a lot of us, we take care of our parents. A lot of Floridians take care of their parents. I've been in this space personally since 2012. I've seen a lot, let's just say that. But if you look at the news lately, you'll see and you'll find where there's a lot of issues happening that people catch on cameras that otherwise they would not. And they're horrific scenes happening to people who are elderly, who can't take care of themselves, and who, even if they could say what happened, people wouldn't believe it because maybe they have dementia or Alzheimer or something that would cause someone to not believe what they're saying. And so for me, it's important to speak for them. And that's what brought me here.
Any questions? Ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have any data on what the nursing homes are doing or how many individuals in the care of nursing homes are being, I guess, not treated well, or I guess whatever the need is for these cameras to be installed? I know you said that there's been a recent rise in cameras noticing issues, but regarding within nursing homes, are we seeing any data in Florida or nationwide that shows what is occurring within these nursing homes are they not doing what they're saying they're doing?
You're recognized.
So here's what I can tell you, is that right now, the cameras, the law is silent on them. Some people have them, some people don't. There's a lot of privacy concerns about not having guardrails up, which is what this bill does. It provides guardrails. In terms of, do we have data? I can get back to you on that. I'd have to speak with ACA and see if they have data on what people are seeing. But remember, most people in nursing homes, they're there by themselves by and large, without family members. So it's difficult to track something like that, although I can request it and I'll get back to you on it.
Follow-up?
Yes.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so regarding that, if I understand that if the camera's in the room and they have a roommate, they can opt out. Now, say for instance, if there is some type of legal issues that they have their roommate is talking about, or people are walking in and out of the room and they're having visitors. How are those people protected? Are they protected? Are their legalities and their privacy protected in that instance?
You're recognized.
Excellent question. As a part of having a camera in the room, you first have to receive the consent of the roommate. And so the roommate has the option to modify that consent. So they can say, you can have video of this section, but not audio. You can point it here or there or between the hours of this and that. We're leaving a great big space for them to be able to provide consent and modification to that. So that would be the consent and privacy of the roommate. For everyone else entering the room, there's notice at the door that lets them know that they'll be recorded when they enter.
Representative Gerwig, recognized for a question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We spoke about this, and my concern was how the image is presented. And I'm understanding that this can be used to turn it over to law enforcement or ACA if something inappropriate is done on there. And my concern really was on the custodian of this information. So if you could just clarify how this will be reviewed if there is a problem. Is there a procedure in this bill that handles that?
You're recognized.
There is a section of the bill that outlines that. By and large, it's the personal representative, and so up to them to then forward that to law enforcement or speak to ACA and file a complaint in that fashion. But it's not meant for personal use, such as sending it on the internet, posting it online, texting it just to show people, for any other purposes that isn't for the care of the individual or to alert law enforcement.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Members, any other questions on the amendment? Representative Franklin.
I have a question on the full bill, so should I wait for that?
We're on the amendment right now. Representative Joseph, was your question on the amendment or the full bill?
I think on the amendment, but just to make sure, so there's going to be, for people who have questions on the overall bill, once the amendment is adopted, they will have another opportunity to ask questions?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so even after this, okay. Yeah. Yep, that's what. All right, so my question for you is, in the absence, well, no, it might be on the full bill now. I withdraw.
Okay, members, any other questions on the amendment? Great. So let's move into public testimony. We have 3 appearances on the amendment. The first one is Jason Hand, Florida Senior Living Association. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Jason Hand, COO, Florida Senior Living Association. FSLA is Florida's advocate for professionally managed assisted living facility owners, operators, management companies, et cetera, and related partners. I do want to take a minute to express our gratitude to Rep. Placensia for meeting with us and to discuss her bill. The lead-all and the bill involve complex issues surrounding privacy, dignity, choice, et cetera, and we appreciate the sponsor's willingness to listen to our concerns and engage in constructive dialogue. There's 2 things I'd like to bring up. First, it is important to know that ALFs and assisted living residents are using cameras today in Florida. This bill does shift the framework from these cameras from being part of a voluntary contractual relationship between two parties, the ALF and the resident, which would address dignity, privacy, choice, etc., to imposing a mandate on the ALF, the staff, and even other residents. And secondly, FSLA would like to make sure that the strike all does not inadvertently prevent ALFs from using technology to supplement fall and other prevention efforts, again, with resident permissions, notices, etc. There's some incredible technology that is in use in Florida and around the country in ALFs to help keep residents safer and alert staff when something has happened or even is about to happen. The strike all does not allow ALFs to access the room's electronic monitoring device, even if there has been or is about to be a health issue. I do want to thank you all for your time today. While we oppose the bill, the delete all today, we look forward to continuing working with the sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Karen Murillo, AARP. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. We'd like to take a moment and just thank Representative Placensia for this wonderful bill and for taking the time to codify the right of long-term residents across this state to choose to install cameras or other surveillance equipment within their homes. Because these rooms that we're talking about, they are their homes. And we appreciate the fact that this bill really prioritizes resident choice and also protects and preserves dignity and privacy for those residents. We know that nursing home and assisted living facility cameras help with deterring abuse and neglect, and also help with identifying where there can be improvements made to a loved one's care. AARP is a big advocate for family caregivers, especially those who are far away, and these cameras will provide peace of mind and the ability for family caregivers to be advocates, present and part of their loved one's care. We talk about the abuse and neglect piece, but I will also point out that this has a lot of practical implications. One caregiver shared her account that she was able to check in on the time that medication was provided to a loved one because the timeliness of medication and sticking to a schedule was crucial. This is just one of many, many examples in how this legislation will help caregivers be advocates for their loved ones and protect our most vulnerable Floridians. Thank you for this good bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And our final speaker on the amendment is Russ Johnson, representing himself.
I knew at this, I wanted to speak to the bill, not the amendment.
Okay, we'll put you in for the bill. Thank you. Okay, members, is there any debate on the amendment? Debate on the amendment? Okay, excellent. So we're going to move into a voice vote on the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Show the amendment is adopted. So now we're back on the bill as amended. Members, are there any questions on the bill as amended? Representative Franklin, you're recognized.
Thank you so much again, Mr. Chair, and thanks so much for all your hard work in this space, Rep. Placensia. My question is around who has access to this live information. Will the facility itself also be able to use this for safety purposes? Who has access to it?
You're recognized.
Access would be the personal representative or healthcare surrogate.
You have a follow-up, Rep? You're recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And is there a reason why the facility would not or should not have access to the live monitoring?
You're recognized.
I think it adds a few more issues, and those were brought up by the nursing homes themselves, so I just didn't consider it at all. But I'm open to working with them if that's what they'd like to do.
Representative Cassell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question just sort of popped into my mind as we were doing this. You know, the lawyer brain started processing things. And I'm just curious, obviously, the individual who's installing the camera, more likely than not, is going to be the caregiver of the person in the facility. My grandmother had dementia, was in a nursing home for several years, and would not have had the ability to provide, let people know upon entering, you're entering my room and there's a camera. So I'm just sort of thinking this through. How does the caregiver, or how do you obtain consent from the other individuals who might live in a facility who have consented, as the gentleman who spoke first, to the contract and the camera being recorded by the facility, but then they enter into an individual's room? If that caregiver is not there to hand over the consent form, I know my grandmother would have never been in a position to let anybody know, by the way, my room has a camera in it. So walk me through how that's going to work.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Notice at the door. There would be notice at the door. And much like when you get a telephone call that says this call is being recorded, you can hang up. You don't have to continue. And in this case, you don't have to walk in.
Representative Cassell for a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So notice at the door at a facility for individuals who are of sound mind and body works. Thinking of my grandmother again with dementia, who actually was blind, if she were to have gone to another friend's room, would have never read the notice. So for a facility where people might have Alzheimer's or dementia, how are they going to be advised walking into a room? That notice may not be sufficient, or do their caregivers get placed on notice to sign the waiver on their behalf?
You're recognized.
Thank you. So much in the same way, if you would have that notice in your home, if someone walked in with dementia, do you have them sign the paperwork or look for a caregiver to have them sign it? Dementia has many stages, and it would be much the same way as if you were in your home, in your apartment, in your condominium, and you provided notice at the door that said, this area is monitored by video, audio, and video. But I can tell you this, as we move forward, my next stop is the Judiciary Committee. And I'm working closely with their staff and with members to make sure that we tighten up the bill and make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed.
Ranking Member Campbell, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know, just to get an understanding, if a person should opt in, the roommate, I'm coming from the roommate perspective, if the roommate should opt in, is there any parameters to where they can opt out if they should see like this is not something that they like?
You're recognized.
100%. Yes, sir.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
You're recognized for follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And far as, and just clarifying, what are some other parameters in this bill? Say, for instance, as coming from the roommate perspective, if I am bringing folks into my room, if folks are coming into the room and we are talking about personal matters, how do I know that those personal matters won't be used against me on this recording or be subjected to me if something should ever come up in that sense?
You're recognized.
You would have to re-explain for me and tell me exactly what you meant by not be held against me.
Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So say, for instance, I'm coming in, I'm talking about things that has to deal with my family, okay, I want the family wants to check the camera because they know a camera's in there and there's audio in there. We want to check what the conversation was between them, because we're probably bringing it up in court, or we want to try to bring up a court case against another family. Can that be used against that person?
You're recognized.
If there's a court case, it can be subpoenaed, if that's the question. You can't destroy evidence, so I mean, that wouldn't happen. I would hope that would not happen. If you don't want something recorded, that would be in the modifications when you consent at the time of consent.
One follow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And at any point, so if I modify and say, hey, everything, all that data that needs to be erased within 5 days of it being recording, or 2 days of it being recording. How, I guess, can I change that at any point in time within the contract, say if I want to extend it or shorten it? And can I now then look at, can I also now look at, so can I change that at any point in time?
I understand.
You're recognized.
You can stop this anytime. You can modify this anytime in the present and moving forward.
Okay, Representative Franklin, you're recognized for a question.
Thanks again, Mr. Chair. Another question I had was around any requirements for cybersecurity. I only asked the question because oftentimes there'll be sensitive information, of course, and just wondering if there are any requirements around cybersecurity.
You're recognized.
The same laws that already apply.
Any other questions, members? Questions? Representative Joseph, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Absent the passage of your bill, would the wiretapping prohibition that makes it criminal to record somebody without their consent be triggered?
You're recognized.
So I'll preface this with, I'm not an attorney. But if you are providing notice that they're being audio recorded, then that by virtue of walking in would be the notice.
Follow up?
You're recognized for follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'm asking is, I understand that, so your bill addresses it. I'm saying absent your bill. So if we didn't pass your bill today, if somebody wanted to put some kind of recording in their room and they didn't alert somebody that they were being recorded, wouldn't they be subject to potentially criminal prosecution for that without obtaining consent?
You're recognized.
That's correct. And so the law is currently silent on the cameras being video. And there are people who, because they love their parents, they love their aunts and uncles and whoever is in these places, will place the cameras up to monitor. But there's nothing there that says, we need to have consent. These are the rules. These are the guardrails. You should have notice. You need to let the nursing facility know. None of those things are in place. And that's what we're doing here today, is making sure that if you do want to check up on your loved one, let's do it in a way that's right. Let's do it in a way that protects the other individual in the room and that it protects the person who's being recorded.
Any final questions? Representative Vice Chair Michael, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Representative. You did check with me, and we discussed a lot, and I'm glad to see that it's postured better, it's more tighter. But my question is, if we have someone who is in a facility, their roommate approves for them to have a monitoring device in the room, and very often either someone passes away, that roommate passes away, or the roommate changes, who's accountable, or who will be the person that has to go back if there's a new roommate that comes in to make sure that they are approving for the device to be in the room?
You're recognized.
That would be the facility upon check-in.
Representative Gerwig, you're recognized.
I have a question. Are there other states that are already allowing this or putting these guardrails in place for camera use?
You're recognized.
Yes, there are currently 19 states. With any luck, Florida would be the 20th. 2 of them are two-party consent states. So this has happened in states very similar to ours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seeing that there are no more questions, we'll move into public testimony. Our first speaker is Jen Lawrence from Florida Healthcare Association. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Anderson, Vice Chair Michael, and Ranking Member Campbell. And thank you, Representative Placensia. We're all interested in making sure that our residents are safe in our nursing homes here in the state of Florida. I'm Jen Lawrence. I'm the Chief Nursing Officer with Aston Health, and I'm also the Vice Chair for the Senior Clinicians Committee through Florida Healthcare Association. I have been a nurse in the state of Florida for over 30 years, operating as a CNA all the way up to an RN, and a nursing home administrator as well. Our biggest concern with this particular bill and the way it's currently worded, and we are definitely agreeable to working with you maybe in the future on tightening up a few of our concern areas to protect them even further, protect our residents even further, is the dignity. It is the dignity and the privacy. These are patients' bedrooms. And I just want to take just a moment to explain what my concern is. So in the patients' bedrooms, there are the conversations that we have talked about. There's a lot of mental health in our facilities that occurs at bedside. That's psychology, psychiatry. Those are very private conversations that an individual has with their therapist. There's conversations with clergy members. There's, attorneys. Attorney-client privilege is a concern. But aside from that, in the purview of this camera will be personal care. This will be a person undressing, changing their clothes, receiving a bed bath, receiving incontinent care in very compromising positions. My mom is currently in a facility, and my mom is also a nurse, so I kind of joined the mom nurse club over here. And I can just tell you she would be mortified if she knew that myself or any of our family members would be seeing her in a position where she was receiving that kind of personal care. So I want to preface that while I see the concern with wanting cameras and wanting that supervision, how we're looking at it right now, I don't think is the best way to look at it. And I know that they can withdraw consent as the roommate, but I don't think that they're able to give that on a daily basis. So if my clergy member were to enter the room, we would have to try and get a hold of the family member of the person with the camera and ask them, hey, can you turn it off so that the roommate can have a private conversation? And I don't know that that's a realistic thing that could happen in real time. So I'm just concerned about that. And I think that there is also the element too of trust. This is a family member. It's not not someone that we have vetted. And we're putting that trust in them to say, oh yes, sure, every Thursday at 4 p.m. I'll turn the camera off for you so that you can have that psychotherapy visit. Are they really turning the camera off? Where, again, this is a family member of a roommate. So how far do we trust those folks in controlling what is being videotaped and recorded?
Representative, just in the interest of time, I'd ask that you address your questions one-on-one, if you could. We don't have time. I'm sorry.
Just in closing, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to kind of present our side of things. And again, we at this time would like to cast our vote in opposition, please.
Thank you. Next up, we have Stephanie Sifrit from Protect Florida Seniors. You're recognized.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I welcome any questions. I've been at this for 4 years. In 2021, my mother was suffering through 8 or 9 years of dementia. And through the disease that they abscond, they run away, they are looking for that safety of home. And she would go into people's homes that we didn't know. So one day she went into a home, was on the living room floor. We had to call the police to have her, removed from the person's home. They took her to the hospital. And after a few days, they wanted to put her in a rehab facility for a respite for my father and I. And our intentions were never to have her in a nursing home at all. So before she arrived, I asked 3 times if they would let me install a camera to which we could stay connected by voice. And they denied each request, citing that the employees' privacy would be invaded. And I asked the question, where in a patient's room does an employee need privacy? Some of the concerns that I'm hearing are focusing on very valid concerns. My reason for being here for Protect Florida Seniors is because we need to advocate for vulnerable, frail individuals who cannot self-advocate nor self-defend. I do understand the concern about privacies. The sign on the door is there to let everyone know, and I appreciate your perspective on what about other dementia patients. and somebody can correct me somewhere, but in a facility, other patients do wander, and they are told not to go into each other's rooms. So the nursing facility would tell the patient or redirect the patient that has walked into another patient's room to leave that room. They would direct them kindly and gently. Cameras can also, this is one thing I haven't heard yet, is that it does advocate for the employee. It really does. An employee who is trying their best to take care of a dementia-inflicted patient may be on the receiving end of bites, punches, kicks, because the patient doesn't understand what's going on. And there may be an accusation. If there's no camera, there might be an accusation of, why is my mother or father bruised? And a camera footage could be presented to the director and say, look, that employee was trying their best to get my mother to bathe when she hadn't bathed in a month. And my mother, went against the employee. So the question was asked, how does the footage get submitted to the director? And that would be by the family, because just like in nurseries, just like in our baby monitors, we have security, we install our cameras, we monitor them, they're password protected. You don't have that issue of, they're making updates to cameras, like Ring cameras and stuff, so they can't be hacked. Again, interrupt me if you have questions, please. But we need to understand that cameras don't just, or they're not a punitive measure. They're not there to punish people. They're there to advocate for people who are frail and cannot self-advocate. To deny a family a camera, they're gonna put in a granny cam. They're gonna put in the teddy bear cam. People are doing it. All of the states, there are 19 states that already have camera laws, and some of those, like Ohio, Steve Pisker, he put in a nanny cam that nobody knew was there and caught it on tape and was able to submit that.
I was going to ask you if you could please just
yes, sir.
Finish with your final thought.
Yes, sir. I'm advocating for the patient as well as the employees, because cameras can see good quality care in effect, and directors can reward their employees for trying their hardest to take care of these patients who are adult-sized children progressing or digressing into infancy. Cameras will help keep families connected.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Members, Vice Chair Michael moves that we extend our meeting for 15 minutes. So without any further objection, the motion of Vice Chair Michael is approved. We'll extend for 15 minutes. We have 6 more appearance cards. So I'll ask the remaining speakers, if you could just please limit your comments to less than 2 minutes and focus them on any areas that have not been addressed yet.
No question.
Thank you. Next, we have Mary Ellen Lawler from Protect Florida Seniors. And behind her will be Russ Johnson.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My husband, Peter, was diagnosed with Parkinson's and dementia. I cared for him at home until it became too difficult, and he was admitted to a skilled nursing facility. Peter's illness progressed to the point where he was completely dependent on staff and couldn't speak. I put an Echo Dot in his room that played music and had a camera. Within 4 hours, my Echo was confiscated by the administration. I knew that Florida had no law saying one way or another whether I could have a camera. But the administration told me that I was not allowed to have a camera. And I was afraid of retaliation because I knew my husband was going to have to be there until his time of death. Peter died last September and had been in the nursing home for 2.5 years. During this time, he had several competent and compassionate staff. Periodically, I would observe some staff being a little bit too rough with him. And as you know, a lot can happen behind closed doors. And if this is what was happening in front of me, then I could only imagine how he was being dealt with behind closed doors. I confronted the staff and told her that I did not want her to be appointed to my husband's care. Peter had his back to her, sitting in a wheelchair, could not speak, and he heard what I said, and he put a thumbs up to me. Cameras are everywhere in our lives. The police have them, they have daycare centers, nursing homes. Some nursing homes will allow it. Traffic, front doors, to name a few. So why not in a nursing home? It would have meant so much to Peter to have a camera so we could stay connected. Most people will need medical care in their later years. This is a human issue that's going to touch everyone here in this room at some point. I had the experience of being in a nursing home for 2.5 years, going regularly. I can address some of the things that people brought up being in a semi-private room as far as confidentiality. When you are in a semi-private room, okay, and they're going to do personal care to the other person, the curtain is pulled. When you are meeting with a psychologist or a therapist, that person goes right in. The other patient can hear it. Okay, so as far as the concern about hearing other people's, everything is exposed. These people are in a nursing home with lots of other people, and they can't advocate for themselves. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Russ Johnson, representing himself.
Thank you for providing us the time to present our support for this bill. I want to address some things like the initial consent form. You're worried about audio recording you. You can modify your initial consent form so that no audio will be recorded. So that takes care of the audio issue. As the previous speaker just mentioned, the other person in a room doesn't leave when personal care is being done or when medical advice is being given to the other person. So the roommate overhears all those conversations on both sides. Personal care issues. You can, as a roommate, you can say, I don't want any video of me. That's why you have a fixed camera that cannot be rotated. It would just focus on your individual, not the other individual. So the other individual could be doing jumping jacks naked. It would not be caught on camera because the camera isn't focused on that area of the room. As a previous member mentioned, there's cameras everywhere, and a lot of these cameras, people, in dementia, they make false claims against the staff. Well, a camera would prove that, no, nobody stole your watch. You still have it. It's just wherever. So no bill is 100%. There are going to be pros and cons to everything. What you need to weigh is, are there more pros than cons, and are those pros more important than the cons? There's always going to be some issues. And as the representative committed to you, she's going to continue to work to address issues that are brought up. But this bill is very important because we know or have a pretty good idea that there are some preventable bad things happening in nursing homes. And these cameras would reduce those bad things from happening, perhaps make the staff act more professional. I can understand that staff could get frustrated doing their job sometimes dealing with difficult patients. But that frustration is no excuse to mistreat patients. And having a camera in the room would reduce the incidence of a frustrated caretaker or staff person from releasing their frustrations inappropriately.
Thank you. Next up, we have Bijong Aikili from the Florida Assisted Living Association. You're recognized.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman and committee members, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak. My name is Bijou Aikili. I'm the CEO of the Florida Assisted Living Association, which is the state's longest established and largest association dedicated to the assisted living industry. I do want to point out that there's been a lot of talk in reference to skilled nursing facilities, nursing homes, which are very different from assisted living facilities, the industry that I represent. Assisted living facilities are not healthcare facilities. They are a residential model, and they are designed really to allow individuals to age with dignity and respect, through the end of their lives. I would like to thank Representative Placensia for meeting with us earlier this week to discuss our concerns about House Bill 223. And I do want to also say that many of our members already have policies in place to allow for electronic monitoring devices. Many of our members, those who do allow within their facilities, appreciate the efforts to apply some parameters to what is currently taking place. And we also have members who do not allow these devices. They choose to not allow these devices for various reasons and a lot of different concerns and issues that, having cameras that are monitored by individuals, we don't even know who these people are necessarily. Just because you're a POA or a family member, there is that question of who's receiving this footage and what's going to be done with it. And a lot of concerns around just the privacy and dignity of the residents who we want to feel are living in their home. And I don't know anyone who would want their children watching them 24 hours a day in their bedroom. But I digress. We believe that allowing these devices should be up to the assisted living facility. Let the market decide. Prospective residents should be informed of assisted living facilities' position on electronic monitoring devices so that they can decide which facility best fits their needs. And if they want to live in an ALF that allows cameras in resident rooms, they can choose to do so. And if it's not a concern for them, then they can also choose to be in a facility that does not allow cameras. So while we're not able to support the bill as it's currently written, we do hope to continue discussions with the bill sponsor to address these concerns, and I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final speaker is Karen Murillo, who was also registered to speak on the amendment. Did you intend to speak on both? Thank you. Okay, that concludes public testimony. Members, we're now in debate. We have about 5 minutes for debate, so we want to get to a vote here today. Representative Barnaby, you're recognized to debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you, Representative Placensia, for this outstanding bill. I want to remind everyone that just because someone lives in an assisted living home, it's called a home because it's their home. You can install cameras in your home without anyone's consent, whether you have people in your home that are ill or of any type of ailment. No one can tell me what type of cameras I can or cannot have in my home. And I really believe in the fact that we must respect everyone's constitutional right. And people that live in a nursing home, regardless of the illness or the reason they're there, they have constitutional rights. They have not surrendered their constitutional rights. So I really have a problem with seeing why we should question whether they have the right to install a camera in their home. It's called a home, and it's their home, whether it's a room that they share with someone or a room by themselves. So this is an outstanding bill. I don't think we should be debating it long, but debate as it may, I'm up on this very good bill, and I thank you, Representative Placensia, for bringing it.
Representative Tremont, recognized in debate.
Representative Placensia, thank you for this bill. I think I can acknowledge the both sides' perspectives, and I think they're very solid arguments, and I can understand that. Let's also be mindful that placing admitting your parents into these facilities is probably the most difficult decision of anybody's life to have to do. One of those reasons is because they're surrendering control of being able to protect their loved ones. So this is the last measure, the only opportunity. I would venture to say that, my folks, my colleagues who may be questioning, I would remind us that there's no such thing as a perfect bill, but every bill is a perfect starting point. And I would imagine that and I know you well enough to be willing to work with everybody to be able to resolve the issues, to everybody can get to a happy medium. But this is about protecting the most vulnerable, some of the most vulnerable in our society. And if there's a better way to do that, I'm sure you'll be glad to table your bill and provide for that protection for them. So I'm up on this bill, and I would encourage my colleagues to at least be up so this can continue through the process of making it a better bill. But ultimately, the goal is to protect our parents and our loved ones in these facilities, because we're surrendering all the ability to keep an eye on them, and this is our last option. So I support your bill, and I appreciate you bringing it forward.
Representative Cassell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Representative, for the bill. I do know that your heart is in the right place, and I do come from a place of having witnessed my grandmother in one of these facilities for over 10 years, and of the most vulnerable of vulnerable, someone who lived with dementia and was blind, so wouldn't have had the ability to consent or communicate that consent. While I appreciate and thank you all of those for those of you who came in the audience and spoke and provided your testimony, I think we need to find a little bit better balance, because while those of us are wanting to protect the expectation of privacy and protect our individual family member, we also have to recognize that they aren't living in a traditional home, and there are other people's whose expectations of privacy need to be taken into consideration. This isn't a situation where they're out in public where you have an expectation that maybe you are on camera if you walk past Publix. This is a home, and you have a different level of expectation of privacy in that place. So the analogies that there are cameras everywhere doesn't necessarily apply in this situation. So I do know you are going to work on this. I do serve on the Judiciary Committee. I would like to sit down with you and address some of the concerns that were discussed today. I do think there's some difference between an assisted living facility where you are cognizant and you are there versus a facility, for example, where my grandmother was. And we have to not only balance the expectation of privacy of the individual that we're looking to protect, but everybody else in that facility as well. So I know you'll get there. I know you'll strike that balance. I'm up today. I think there were some concerns raised. It's committee stop number 1. This is where we get to talk about those initial concerns. I know you'll work us to get this bill in a better posture, because I know your heart's in the right place. It is a good bill. I'm up, but do have some concerns that I want to work with you as the bill moves forward.
Members, we have 2 minutes to get to a vote. So does anyone want to reconsider their debate? Okay. Excellent. Appreciate that. So seeing the conclusion of debate, Rep. Placensia, you are recognized to waive close if you wish.
I waive close.
Thank you. Representative Placensia, having waived close on her bill, Anola, please call the roll on HB 223 and announce the vote.
Vice Chair Michael?
Yes.
Ranking Member Campbell?
No.
Representatives Barnaby?
Yes.
Booth?
Yes.
Barrero?
Yes.
Brackett?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Cassell?
Yes.
Cobb?
Yes.
Franklin?
No.
Joseph?
Yes.
Kincart Johnson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Tremont,
Yes.
ex officio Rep. Skidmore,
Yes.
Chair Anderson,
Yes.
16 yeas, 2 nays.
Show the bill reported favorably as amended. Congratulations, Representative Placensia.